Amid the cold, desolate, and snow-covered land of Nunavut, Canada, hidden away lies one of the most chilling mysteries of the 20th century, the story of an Inuit village by Lake Anjikuni that suddenly vanished without a trace. No screams were heard, no signs of struggle or migration were found. Only an eerie silence cloaked every hut, every fireplace still burning, and even pots of soup left uneaten. More than 2,000 people seem to have evaporated in a single freezing night in 1930, leaving behind countless unanswered questions that, for nearly a century, humanity has been unable to explain. Lake Anjikuni, located in the province of Nunavut, Canada, is one of the most remote, isolated, and coldest areas in North America. Along its shores, the Inuit people long ago established a small fishing village where they lived in huts. Connected to the Kazan River, with its abundant supply of salmon and northern pike, Lake Anjikuni was considered by the Inuit to be a fertile and prosperous land that supported a stable way of life. In return, the Inuit villagers enriched this land with a culture full of unique identity and mysterious tales of spirits and monsters. The most famous of which is the legend of Wendigo, the terrifying man-eating creature said to haunt the North American wilderness. Life would have gone on, and the Inuit people would likely still be living there today if it weren't for the sudden and mysterious disappearance of the 2,000-person village in a single freezing night in the winter of 1930. The man who discovered the disappearance was a fur trapper named Joe LaBelle. He had visited many times before, welcomed warmly by the friendly and kind Inuit people, who always greeted travelers and offered them shelter for the night. As on many previous occasions, one day in November 1930, while trying to make his way through the icy snow toward the familiar Anjikuni village to find a place to stay for the night, Joe began to sense something strange as he got closer. The village was unusually silent. There were no barking dogs, no children playing, no cheerful chatter from the adults. Entering the first house, Joe LaBelle found no one. He turned to the next house, also empty. 2 houses, then 3, then 5. There was no sign of a single person. Terrified, he ran frantically between the houses, shouting the names of the villagers over and over, but all that answered Joe was a chilling, hopeless silence. Every one of the 2,000 villagers had vanished, leaving behind no trace, not even a single animal. As he began to calm down, Joe LaBelle noticed something even more unsettling. In one house, the firewood was still burning in the fireplace. A pot of soup nearby was boiling vigorously, and on a chair in the living room, 2 partially sewn jackets lay with the needle and thread still stuck in the fabric. In the storage shed, he found clothes and dried food left completely untouched. Joe was certain this wasn't a case of evacuation. He suspected something truly terrible had happened to the Inuit villagers. No matter how hurried a departure might be, these were the 2 things no one would ever leave behind when stepping outside in the dead of winter. Other, that Joe noticed a plume of smoke rising from deep within the forest. He ran desperately toward it, hoping to find someone, but in the end he only discovered a recently extinguished campfire along with an abandoned pot of stew. Though he considered himself a seasoned trader used to a nomadic life in remote areas, the incident in the middle of winter still made Joe LaBelle break out in a cold sweat from fear. Exhausted and terrified, Joe decided to head toward a postal outpost located a few kilometers away. Upon arrival, he could only gasp a few words to the telegraph operator before fainting. Just enough for the operator to grasp the situation and alert the police. The next day, the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, RCMP, arrived at the village. On their way there, the RCMP encountered a hunter named Armand Laurent and his 2 sons. They asked Laurent if he had noticed anything unusual happening in the area recently. Laurent said that a few days earlier he had seen a strange shimmering object in the sky. According to his description, the object hovered in midair, had the ability to change shape and was heading in the direction of Lake Anjikuni. Upon arrival, the RCMP made several new discoveries. At the cemetery on the edge of the village, they found empty graves, no human remains inside. This was especially disturbing, as disturbing the resting places of the dead is considered a serious taboo by the Inuit. The RCMP did not believe this was the work of animals, as the ground was frozen solid and exhuming graves would have required tools. The RCMP continued their investigation, expanding the search for the missing villagers. But in the end, the investigation only deepened the mystery. The only thing the police found was a pack of dogs that had starved to death, buried under over 12 meters of snow outside the village. Strangely, not far from the dogs was a hut filled with food. So why did the dogs die of starvation when the villagers had only just disappeared less than a day earlier? One theory emerged. Perhaps the villagers had actually vanished 1 to 2 months prior, and what Joe discovered was staged by someone or something else. And that someone might very well have been extraterrestrial. Due to the extraordinarily mysterious nature of the events, the press at the time flooded the news with reports about the death village by Lake Anjikuni, causing the story to spread widely, even beyond the continent. However, fearing that it could cause public panic, the Canadian government immediately censored all related news in the media. They denied that anything had happened, claiming it was merely a fabricated tale invented by a fur trader during a drunken conversation with a drinking buddy. Even so, the truth is that many people, especially other traders, had known about the existence of Anjikuni village. The RCMP concluded that due to the Inuits' nomadic lifestyle, it was possible that they had migrated elsewhere, abandoning the village. However, the RCMP also noted that it was extremely strange for them to leave behind their weapons, food supplies, and daily necessities. From this, many theories began to circulate. Some believed the villagers had been attacked, murdered, and either buried or abducted by a hostile group. But according to Joe LaBelle's account, this was impossible. There were no signs of struggle, resistance, or conflict, and the Eskimos' belongings remained untouched. There was no evidence of looting. Many who believe in the supernatural suggested that the creature Wendigo was responsible, or that Torn Garzuk, the Inuit sky god, had taken them away. Others believed that extraterrestrials had descended and abducted the entire village. All of these, however, remain nothing more than speculation, with no evidence to support them. Some even rumored that perhaps the villagers had contracted a mysterious illness and collectively decided to end their lives by jumping into a nearby river. Since they didn't need to take anything with them to the afterlife, everything in their homes was left untouched. At first glance, this theory might seem plausible, but what about the livestock? Even if they intended to bring the animals with them in death, how could an entire herd be led to the river without leaving any trace? Nearly a century later, the death village of Anjikuni remains shrouded in mystery. Over time, facts and fiction have become so intertwined that it's nearly impossible to tell what's real from what's made up. Researchers seem to have hit a dead end. The event took place so long ago that no traces or evidence remain. The only known eyewitness, the fur trader Joe LaBelle, passed away many years ago. The story of the vanished village by Lake Anjikuni has now become legend, often shared around campfires, especially under star-filled skies in the remote northern forests of Canada. The story of the vanished village by Lake Anjikuni is like a dark, tangled veil, forever shrouding the fate of thousands of peaceful Inuit people amid countless theories, ranging from the supernatural to crime to even alien intervention. Each is nothing more than an incomplete piece of a puzzle that has never been solved. To this day, that strange event lives on in collective memory, whispered like legend through generations, especially on long snowy nights by the flickering firelight. Perhaps some truths are destined to belong forever to the shadows, where only time and the universe hold the answers.